Hey, what's going on? Sean Odell here. This is my first theory competency. So, the theory that I chose to do for this one was the social penetration theory. This was influenced by Erwin Altman and Dalmas Taylor. And basically, what social penetration theory states is that when we meet someone, the more we self-disclose with that person over time and the more they self-disclose with us, the closer that relationship is going to become and the closer, friends or partners we're going to be. So the way that Altman and Taylor described it was it's kind of like a wedge going into an onion. The onion is us. We have layers upon layers of our beliefs, our values, things like that. And when we start to self-disclose with someone, it's like they're driving a wedge into us, into the onion, and they're starting to figure out deeper thoughts that we have, and past traumatic experiences, things like that. So one thing I'm going to go over a couple terms that have to do with this theory, and then eventually get to some of the critics of the theory. One of the things that I learned was that depth is not the only thing that's important when it comes to driving that wedge into the onion. Breadth is also important as well. So, for example, say that something that I have problems with is my relationship with my parents. If that's on the same level as a traumatic experience in my childhood, such as getting bullied or something like that, I might disclose one without disclosing the other. Just because you drive a wedge to that one part of my beliefs and that one part of my life doesn't mean you'll learn about the other. So what Altman and Taylor made sure to describe was that really self-disclosure is like you're driving multiple wedges into the onion. That's what real self-disclosing is. It's not just one single wedge all the time. So, a couple things, a couple terms to consider with this. The law of reciprocity is a big one to consider. So, like when we start to self disclose with someone, it'll usually influence them to self disclose with us as well, and it kind of keeps it on an even keel. Um, another three things that they took from a different theory, the social exchange theory, which was from John, I believe that's Tibau, is how you say that, and Harold Kelly, was they took the cost benefit analysis of relationships, they took the gauging relational satisfaction part, and they took the gauging relational stability. So, the cost benefit analysis of relationships, what this has to do with is gauging relational satisfaction and gauging relational stability. So, with gauging relational satisfaction, there's a comparison level. Let's say that you meet a new friend and you've had multiple friends, back in the day who you were extremely close to. What you're comparing this new friend's relationship to and how it develops, you're comparing it to the past relationships that you have. That's your comparison level. That's the level you have to compare with of past experiences. Now, there's also something when it comes to the gauging the relational stability is the comparison level of alternatives. So, say you meet two groups of people, and the first group of people, you're hanging out with, y'all are buddies, everything like that. You start to kind of think about that other group that you met, and you start to kind of weigh the costs and the benefits of hanging out with your current group with hanging out with the other group you met. So if the benefits outweigh the costs of hanging with that other group than the group you're in now, odds are you're going to go hang with that other group. And it's all just a cost and benefit thing. You're going to go with what benefits you the most. So one thing that also came about with this theory was ethical egoism, and this came up from the Greek philosopher Epicurus, and this is the belief that individuals should live their lives so as to maximize their own pleasure and minimize their own pain. And that also has to do with the cost of benefit analysis. You're going to go somewhere with the most benefit, more pleasure, less pain. One thing that Epicurus stated is that no pleasure is in itself evil, but the things which produce certain pleasures entail annoyances many times greater than the pleasures themselves. What he's saying is that it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be selfish, do things for yourself, and look out for number one. Don't worry about everyone else. Which the problem with that is we all know that we do worry about other people a lot of times. But that's basically what he's saying is it's okay to be selfish, and that's how it's being used in the social penetration theory. So Altman later used the dialectical model, and that basically is just the assumption that people want both privacy and intimacy in their social relationships. They don't want all one or all the other. They kind of want to keep it on an even keel. So that's basically what he meant by that. And another thing he said was environment can be a self-disclosure factor. One thing I thought of with that was if someone goes to a confession, that environment, them confessing, they're going to self-disclose all their sins to the preacher. That's just how a confession works, and that's that environment making them able to do that. So a couple critics, a person called Petronio is a critic and believe that self-disclosure can be due simply to express oneself, relieve tension, or gain relational control. So she didn't think that self-disclosure was really just for advancing relationships. She said it could be for minor things as well. Other theorists weren't sold on us constantly weighing the costs and benefits of a relationship, which I think is also true. We don't just consciously think about that all the time. If one friend is having a really bad day and we still want to go hang out with a different friend, we're still going to go help out that guy that has a real bad day. And Julia Woods argues the focus and exchange theories is one's own outcomes. This focus is incapable of addressing matters such as compassion. That's also true as well. So, and that's pretty much the critics of the theory, and that's pretty much all I got.